What is good, everybody? This is another episode of the Eye Test Takes podcast. This is episode 7, recapping week 7 of the NFL season. And man, the slate of games we're going to get into here, it's going to start off with Philadelphia versus the New York Giants. That was Thursday Night Football, of course. Then we're going to go with Monday Night Football, which was Chicago versus the LA Rams. The next game we're going to touch on is Seattle versus Arizona, Sunday Night Football. And then I'm going to touch on, I didn't get to watch this in full, unfortunately. I got to watch the first half, and then I had to go do some things on Sunday, unfortunately. But then, I kind of got the game script of the second half. I wasn't able to watch the full thing. But I want to touch on that game a little bit because that was a very interesting game. Let's just jump right into it. Let's go with Philly and the New York Giants. I'm going to start off this kind of analysis with a little bit of an analogy. And it's going to be about Philadelphia Eagles fandom. I've been an Eagles fan for a while, and this is the best way I can kind of describe being a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and especially being an Eagles fan watching that game on Thursday night. Being a Philadelphia Eagles fan is like playing golf. Now, let me preface this with a little bit of context. If you're a good golfer, this doesn't really apply. This is like for the amateur, like I just go out with my buddies on the weekend and we swing the clubs a little bit, chase the white ball. But this is being a Philadelphia Eagles fan. It's like playing golf if you kind of stink, okay? You go out there, good intentions, you got your tee time, you wake up early, you're excited, you want to go out there and hit the ball, and you're just with your buddies. It's great camaraderie with your friends. And, as the day progresses, you might have some good shots, you might have some bad shots. If you stink like I kind of do, by, about 3/4 of the way through the course, you're kind of thinking to yourself, my fun Saturday or whatever day you're playing on has been diminished by the swing because I'm falling apart. My golf game is not great. So by this time, you're thinking, man, let's just get this thing over with. Like, what in the world was I thinking coming to play golf, spending $30, $40 for a round of golf, and I'm out here not even having fun anymore because I stink. But then you hit another good shot. You're like, okay, maybe, this is kind of cool. I'm not playing very well, but I can see where I can improve. I see where I can actually play this game pretty well. And then you continue to hit some more bad shots, and you're like, well, gosh, man, I don't know what else to do here. I thought I fixed it for a second. And then you finally get to hole 18. You're thinking, man, let's just get out of here. And then that's when it hits you. You tee off on hole 18. You hit a 300-yard drive straight down the middle, and all of a sudden you're thinking, holy crap, I think I can do that again. And then the next weekend, or right before the next weekend, you're thinking, you remember when I hit that 300-yard drive? That was pretty sweet. I can probably do that again. Let's make a tee time for next weekend. And that, in a nutshell, is a Philadelphia Eagles fan. And especially watching the Giants game against them on Thursday night, it was just up and down roller coaster, strugglesville, and then high moments, low moments. Everything was wild. There's flashes of Carson Wentz being the 2017 MVP like he was that year, and then there's boneheaded Carson Wentz. He's literally Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That dumb pick he threw in the red zone was just inexcusable. He should have thrown the ball away. Everybody knows that now. And then, of course, in the very end, Carson Wentz throws a absolute dot to Boston Scott for the win. And you're just thinking, how does the same guy do that and throw these just boneheaded passes and just inaccurate passes at points in time? It's just wild to watch. There's no real explanation for it. He's just a very streaky guy. He's like the J.R. Smith of quarterbacks right now, and I don't know what to tell you about it. But, of course, the Eagles get the win. That last, touchdown pass by Carson Wentz was ridiculous. Just the window he had to get it into for a 5'6" Boston Scott being covered by Jabril Peppers. I mean, it was just ridiculous. But just touch on a few more things in that game. Danny Dimes, I appreciate you creating a meme that will last, and it will be a meme for the remainder of time. I really appreciate that. You absolutely are a dork for that. Just falling, running 80 yards. I mean, just got the turf monster got him. There's a sniper in the building. Something happened. This man fell over, got too much momentum. It just caught up to him, and he got a little tired. Tripped over himself. Basically, that was hilarious. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Other than the fact that they scored on that drive, and I was still kind of mad because the game was a game, and the Eagles should have blown the Giants out. But I will say, the Giants' defense is way better than I expected. I said it earlier in the season when they played the Steelers, but I wasn't too, sold on them at that point because, the Steelers were still a little rusty, especially with Roethlisberger coming back from the elbow. I just didn't know if I trusted my eyes just yet on the Giants' defense being like a good unit, and they actually are a pretty good unit. And I'm not saying like they play great because the Eagles' offense is, some juggernauts out there and they stifled them. No, it's really not about that. It's just the Giants are a solid, pretty disciplined defense, and they made life very tough on Carson Wentz and that offense all night long. But Eagles, of course, squeaked out the win. The Eagles are first in the division again because Dallas really freaking stinks, which is hilarious. But I mean, what do you expect them to do? Their entire O-line's depleted. Andy Dalton gets killed on a play this week where John Bostic just takes his head off, which was super unfortunate. And obviously, he should be reprimanded by the league for that. That's just unacceptable. But yeah, Eagles first in the division at 2-4-1. It's hilarious, but that's the NFC East for it, NFC least, whatever you want to call it. But let's go on to the next game. The next game I watched was Chicago versus LA Rams. This was the Monday Night Football game, so that was last night. And this was honestly a pretty boring game to watch for me. I don't say that a lot, but it's just, I do appreciate defensive football games for the most part. But this one in particular, man, I think it was just the fact that Chicago couldn't get anything going for so long. It just made the game, feel like it lasted forever. But the main point here is, and I was pretty tough on the Rams last week when they lost to the 49ers, saying that, I think they may be a paper tiger. They've only beaten the NFC East, blah, blah, blah. But I will say I'm not 100% sold on the LA Rams still. I still have some reservations about them. But, of course, they took it to the Bears last night. But I think that was a lot more to do with Chicago's lack of offense than I think the Rams being just a great team all of a sudden. If you can't sustain drives against the LA Rams, you're going to lose. And that's exactly what happened to the Bears. The Bears could not... there was just 3 and out. Nick Foles could not get into a rhythm. The Rams defense, I'll give them credit. They were playing very well. They got a ton of pressure on Nick Foles. That Bears O-line was pretty bad last night. But if you cannot sustain drives against this LA Rams team, they're going to kill you. Because when they do get on offense, they're going to do everything, and they're going to stress you out in every possible way. You have a lot to think about when you're going up against the McVay offense. And when the Bears defense is on the field for that long, it's only a matter of time until, their super great defense gets negated by the fact that they're just dead tired. So that's pretty much, the key to that game was the fact that Chicago couldn't get anything going for so long on offense, and the Rams took advantage of it by just continue to put up points whenever they had the opportunity to. And the Bears had a charge late in the game, but it was just kind of too late, and then Nick Foles caps it off by throwing a pick that pretty much sealed it. So that game ended. I honestly thought that the Bears would have won this game. I just thought there was going to be a little bit more creativity from Matt Nagy in that Chicago offense. It didn't come to fruition there. But that's pretty much what you get with Nick Foles, though. It's very up and down. There's some games where he's going to win you the game, some games where he's just going to look very pedestrian, and that's what happened in this game. So the next game I watched was Seattle versus Arizona, and I mean, if Seattle is on television on Sunday Night Football, get ready for weird shit to pop off, because that's apparently just what happens every Sunday. I mean, every time they play, no matter who the opponent is, something crazy is going to happen in the game with Seattle, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, from the fact that Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett's connection was so ridiculous, and he was throwing bombs and just throwing perfectly placed passes to Lockett and just scoring touchdowns between the two. That was wild. And then you had the DK Metcalf just heat-seeking missile play on Budda Baker to run him down to stop a touchdown, basically. That happened, and then, of course, everything that happened in the overtime in that game was just absolute shenanigans. So it was a wild game. But I will say, in the first half, I really thought after the DK Metcalf play where he runs down Budda Baker, just absolutely hawks him down, I thought after the score that Seattle had with Carlos Hyde there, the run to the left, I thought the game was going to be over, man. I was like, okay, there's just too much momentum going in Seattle's way here. They're going to end up running away with this. Arizona's defense is not that great. Neither is Seattle's either. So that's kind of how this game ended up going. But yeah, I just thought by the end of that first half, man, I was like, Carlos Hyde just scores. I was like, man, they just went up by a decent amount there. I don't know if Arizona has, the guns to do it. And then Arizona gets back on the field, goes back down and gets a field goal, which I thought pretty much neutralized that momentum shift a little bit. And then in the second half, I mean, both teams were scoring. Arizona, just roars back and gets back into the game. And then that OT happens. I mean, the missed field goal and then the eventual stop again, like the possible DK Metcalf touchdown to end the game for Seattle gets called back. It was just absolutely pandemonium in the overtime there. But then Arizona gets the ball back with the Isaiah Simmons pick. They go back down and get the field goal. Zane Gonzalez kind of like gets his swagger back a little bit there with the game winner instead of having that hanging over his head that he missed the game winner earlier. So I thought that was interesting. Just the fact that Arizona had the guts and just the will to come back in that game and just stay poised. I mean, Kyler didn't flinch. He was still slinging the rock. I mean, that's what he does. He was running the ball when he needed to get some first downs, some very key first downs. And so was Russell Wilson, really. But honestly, in summary, once again, Seattle's defense is super, super concerning to me. I've been basically saying it all year long, but Seattle's defense is literally the Achilles heel of that team. I mean, and it's very obvious, especially with Jamal Adams still out. They just don't have those big-time playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Bobby Wagner's just a little bit up there in age now. He still makes plays all over the place for the most part, but he's just not as... I mean, he just doesn't impact the game as much as a Jamal Adams does, especially when Jamal is just all over the place, just in coverage, can blitz everything, can, guard somebody like a tight end. I mean, he's so versatile and so impactful that they really miss his presence in that back half. But yeah, Seattle obviously showing it has some weakness there. If the other opposing team's offense can keep up, it's tough for Seattle to win some of these games. So that's pretty much it for that game. And then I'm gonna just touch on what I saw in the Pittsburgh versus Tennessee game. I was only really able to watch in totality the first half and a little bit of the third quarter, but then I had to go do some things. But Pittsburgh in the beginning of this game they took command of the game 100%. It was just time of possession, first down, and it was just they were able to run the ball with James Conner. Kind of Roethlisberger this year has been kind of dinking and dunking the ball a little bit more than we're used to seeing him do. I think he's realized, especially as he's matured and kind of in his old age now, and the fact that he almost had football taken away from him with the elbow injury. He's just kind of realizing that he doesn't have to do it all anymore. They've put a ton of weapons around him, and he's utilizing them all right now. James Conner is a good running back. I wouldn't say he's great by any stretch, but he can run between the tackles. He can catch pretty well. And then you have the guys like Deontay Johnson. Juju obviously is a good player. Deontay Johnson showed out on Sunday. I mean, he was a monster. He did everything for them, and it almost really did neutralize Chase Claypool because he wasn't on the field as much, and he didn't get as many touches because Deontay Johnson was just the hot hand, and Roethlisberger was feeding him. But yeah, they just kept the ball forever. It felt like Pittsburgh had the ball the entire first half, and Tennessee couldn't do anything whenever they did have the ball. They were trying to get Derrick Henry going, but that did eventually pay off for them in the second half. They stuck with it. Arthur Smith, that offensive coordinator for Tennessee, he's been doing a great job of not getting too panicky when things aren't going great, and he just sticks with the run game, sticks with Ryan Tannehill getting the ball to A.J. Brown and Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, and they kind of roar back. They get back into the game. They really make it a game, and they really should have won the game. But Stephen Gostkowski misses that field goal, and it was just a pretty simple field goal. He's made a ton of those in his career, especially in way bigger spots. I don't know what's wrong with him at this point in time. I know earlier in the season, I heard a little thing where he was missing some field goals in the first game, and he eventually took his sock off of his kicking foot to start kicking field goals. And I don't know for a game there, it fixed it. A game or two there, it fixed it. But I don't know if he went back to the sock or I don't know. It's a weird thing. I don't know. Kickers are weird with their, rituals and stuff. But I don't know what was wrong with him on Sunday, but he really cost Tennessee the game because they should have won that. But the Pittsburgh Steelers held on, and they're 6-0. They're the only undefeated team in all of football, and they really deserve to be. I haven't seen many games where they should have realistically lost other than the Tennessee game, and they're just playing pretty good ball right now. That defense is absolutely tearing it up right now. They're a little suspect in the secondary, but that pass rush kind of just takes care of that for everybody else in the back half. So they look good. But that pretty much wraps it up for Week 7, Episode 7 of the Eye Test Takes podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Logan Hill. I appreciate everybody watching. Follow us on social. We're at Eye Test Takes on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We'll try to get a little bit more content out on those channels for you guys. But yeah, check us out. Subscribe, like on YouTube. We appreciate it. Peace.